free to answer some questions.
I take it that if you're going to balance the budget, you're not going to raise taxes, so you got to cut about $1 trillion, 1.1 trillion in spending. Can you tell us anywhere you'll actually cut? You put out a list, which was maybe a few billion, but are you standing by that list, or are you going to vote to cut federal aid to education and law enforcement?
Well, this is where there's a clear difference between myself and Jim Matheson. I'm at least putting out a list to start that discussion.
Okay,
and as we go through and we start looking at where efficiencies are and inefficiencies, we're going to start cutting. Everything that my opponent has done has been to protect more spending on a federal level. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at that list, and we're having some discussions about these things. And I'm talking to the 4th District, and we are going to do everything we can to cut. We have to hold every single one of these bureaucracies responsible. We have to make sure that they can come out and justify the cost.
Will you vote to repeal sequestration?
Well, sequestration, it's obviously not working for us. I think it was a bad idea. The super committee was a bad idea to begin with. Again, we talk about what we're going to do. People talk about lowering the tax rate, broadening the base. I think that we need to keep the current tax cuts. I think that we need to make sure that we simplify.
How about sequestration? You know how you'll vote on sequestration?
I think I'm not going to, again, we're going to have to look at certain things, but I wasn't fond of the super committee putting that plan together to begin with.
Medicare or Medicaid? Do you know what will you, excuse me, Medicare and Social Security? Do you know if you'll vote to cut those?
We are going to reform that. Again, I'm the only one that's actually put out some thoughts on how to reform that. But I'm not going to pull out, let's be very clear, Rod, I'm not going to pull out the rug from under our seniors. We made promises. They put money into Medicare. They put money into Social Security. They were forced to put money into that, and we've got to make sure we keep our promises. But along with that, it's not one way or the other. There are ways that we can reform those programs, because if we don't, they're going to be gone.
Do you know yet if you'll vote to cut the Central Utah project?
There are so many things that I support in the Central Utah project. I think that for instance, Colorado River doesn't just flow in Colorado. So there's going to have to be federal involvement when it comes to the water project. I support a lot of things that they do, but again, there are inefficiencies there. I mean, I live right next to the lake, and I know that there's a lot of money that's been put into the June Sucker project. We can look at some of those things and be a little bit more reasonable.
Is there anything that you can tell people that you'll actually cut? You've got $1.1 trillion to balance, and I can't tell from these questions, I can't find a dollar.
I put out a list there, and I put out a plan.
Okay, but
and
you're not
yes,
standing by it,
yes.
is my understanding. The list was, we'll get rid of this, and those were some real cuts. But as I understand now, the list was for discussion, not for actual cutting.
It actually is, and we're going to take from that list, and we are going to make some cuts from that list. When I talked about earned income credits, I talked about some of these things. There are inefficiencies in all of these programs that we need to cut. So that's a starting point. There's so many we couldn't fit everything on that list. So again, I'm the only one that has the courage to put out a plan and say, this is what we need to look from and this is where we need to cut on. And I stand by those cuts. I'm the only one that's coming up that's courageous enough to put those plans out there.
Okay,
So what's the next question? Is there a next question?
Yes.
So you would have voted against